7:08. It is, I'm excited. I get giddy about the possibility of what could be. And, we had, last Friday we were talking about going to the edge of space. And, you'd call a travel agent and you go, hey, I want to go to the edge of space. This stuff is actually becoming more and more possible. And Tim Pickens is, you're commercial space advisor, chief propulsion engineer, and you're also for Dynetics, but you're also the guy that is over this, I guess, a consortium, or what would be the best description of? It's a group of fellow organizations that are interested in winning this Google Prize. Explain a little bit. First of all, welcome. Janet Feltz is also joining us, and hopefully she'll chime in. She's got a microphone in front of her, so she's welcome anytime. Right. Tim, kind of describe. We've heard a little bit about this, and now, of course, as of late, another group has emerged which I find fascinating in an area this size. What the X Prize is, and it basically is from a commercial. Google is offering a prize for somebody who can get to the moon, do some things, and kind of give us some more detail on what it is exactly.
Basically, Google's decided to take $20 million or $30 million of their money and invest it in a prize format. And there's this organization called the X Prize, which is known for taking seed money, if you will, and leveraging it to reach a lot of people through various media and whether it's audio, video, just TV outlets. I mean, they are really good at marketing. And basically, they have platforms to allow people to go chase hard things. Maybe it's companies. Maybe it's, for instance, a few years ago, there was the X Prize, which is a prize to be able to carry the first human beings, to space commercially without any government funding. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, that was won by Burt Rutan, and it was paid by a lady. The prize money was put up by a lady named Anusha Ansari, who would later fly on a Russian flight to the space station. She was a paid flyer, and I don't know, that it might have cost her $35 million.
But there are people who will pay this for this, and thank God we've got people who, if not for I guess Isabel and Ferdinand, Christopher Columbus wouldn't have had his little stake to go do what he did, and people still debate as to whether that was a successful voyage or not. But again, we always have looked further out, and God bless humanity. We keep wanting to do that.
Well, it is pretty neat that you put a little seed money in. People say, well, why in the world? For in her case, there was a $10 million prize. It took us $25 million to win the prize. But a guy like Paul Allen, who started Microsoft, came in. He funded us to do that, and I was the propulsion lead for a while out there in the Mojaves before I ever started my own business. And basically, a team of little bandits out in the Mojave Desert, we built a rocket system, and all scaled composite had ever done was airplanes, and none of them had ever been supersonic, by the way. So you have this Mach 3 airplane, if you will, that goes over 67 miles high with a human being in it, and returns to Earth safely. We do it 3 times. They win the X Prize money. On one of the flights, Richard Branson gets in the mix, who owns Virgin Records, and he's excited and sees an opportunity to start a new space business. So he buys a logo, and I think it might have been for a couple of $1 million to put on the tail of the plane. So, okay, now we're up to $12 million. So we succeed, and that we end up hanging that thing in the Smithsonian, and Paul Allen's investment ended up getting returned through licensing the IP and the intellectual property rights for that technology we developed. And now there's Virgin Galactic, and now they have funding from world funding recently from Abu Dhabi. They actually had secured over 230 million to continue building these spaceships to carry 8 people to space for tourism.
So this is we're talking reality here sooner than later in most of our lifetimes.
Yeah, it's really cool, and in the Google X Prize is just another example of a prize the bar is set very high. We're talking about going to the moon. The Russians.
And actually doing stuff.
Yeah, actually driving a robot around on the moon, sending data back, sending images back. The Russians, of course, never walked on the moon. In fact, the probably the biggest accomplishment for bringing even any rocks back from the moon, the most they ever brought back were just a few grams, by the way.
Because they're whatever robots could pick up or whatever.
Correct.
All right, I want to get into the nuts and bolts of this thing, how it works, how many people are involved, how many are competing, and this is big stuff because somebody wins, and then I guess in a way we all win down the road. More with Tim Pickens. Hey, going to the moon for a prize coming up.